Wow. Just wow. I did not expect this trade. I know a lot of people, a lot of reports came out saying the Cavs were interested in D Mitch, but I did not expect that trade to actually go through. So this afternoon, the Cleveland Cavaliers traded for Donovan Mitchell. And before I talk about the trade details and everything, I just want to say the Knicks, you guys suck, bro. Oh my God. Thank the Lord. You know what? I thank the Cavs because they kept him away from that garbage franchise. Thank you. Another year of disappointing basketball and not getting a top star for you guys. Thank the Lord. Answering my prayers. Now, let's talk about this trade. The Cleveland Cavaliers gave up Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, their lottery pick, Ochai Agbaji, I think I pronounced it right, I'm not sure, and 5 first-round picks, with 3 of them being unprotected. Now, this trade is, I don't know about this trade. I really don't, to be honest. There are a lot of pros and a lot of cons. But let's start off with the pros for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, the Cavs, here are the big pros for them. They got Donovan Mitchell, a top 15 offensive player in the league. A dude who can score on and off the ball, solid secondary playmaker and passer, and just adds another rim threat. So, huge plus there. Adding that dude to your offense that already struggled a ton is huge for the Cleveland Cavaliers. It also allows guys like Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley to flourish a bit more, knowing that they have another guy who can actually put pressure on the rim, freeing them up for a lot of lobs and dump offs. Now, another person who's going to be benefiting from this is Donovan Mitchell. Now, D Mitch is already a great offensive player, but I think right now, putting him on this team, he will have the best offensive season of his career. Why? Well, it's simple. He's playing with the best playmaker he's ever played with. Now, don't get me wrong, Ricky Rubio, who he's going to be playing with now, and Mike Conley, those were great playmakers, but they aren't on the level of Darius Garland. A guard that can not only pass at an extremely high rate with both hands, but also a dude who can also score the ball and actually has scoring gravity, unlike those 2 other guards. Mike Conley has a little bit more, but you guys get what I'm saying. And not only that, but he's going to be playing with not only 1, but 2 elite vertical spacers. Another huge positive for this whole entire trade is the Cleveland Cavaliers did not have to give up any of their big pieces. They kept Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, and Isaac Okoro. Now let me chill. Darius Garland, man. They kept those 3 players. That is insane considering the fact that you traded for one of the best guards in the league. So I think that's a huge plus in my opinion. Now with Donovan Mitchell, there are positives, but there also are negatives. One of the big negatives that I have with this trade is the fact that they traded for another small guard. And for me personally, I don't like small guard backcourts. The only time I'm fine with them is when you have 2 small guards that can defend at a high level, a la Kyle Lowry and Fred VanVleet when they played in Toronto together. I was fine with that duo. But this duo right here, it's not that great. Why? Well, it's because these 2 guards can't defend. Yes, they are nice offensively. Yes, they can both create their own shots and pass. But that doesn't matter when you're giving up so much on the other end of the floor. And what's so bad about this is, as we've seen in years prior, small backcourts that don't play defense never win championships. I mean, look at the Portland Trail Blazers. They had Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. And yes, they had some other roster issues. But if we're being honest, the biggest issue of them all was the fact that they had the worst defensive backcourt in the NBA. Having 2 guards who weren't good point of attack defenders and were both bad off-ball defenders, what can you do? You can hide 1 player maybe at a time, but hiding 2 players is almost impossible in this current NBA. Another huge negative is that they gave up way too much for Donovan Mitchell. Now, I understand when you trade for players, especially stars, you either slightly underpay or it's an overpay. There is really no in between in this league of negotiating and leverage. That being said, I think this was a crazy overplay for a guard like D Mitch. Now, D Mitch, is he a great player? Yes. Is he a top 15 offensive player in the league? Yes, I understand. I understand why you're saying this. I completely understand. But let's ask ourselves this question. How much better is D Mitch than Colin Sexton? Seriously. Now, I know nobody likes Colin Sexton. Nobody thinks he's a great player. Nobody thinks he can contribute to wins despite him playing on some of the worst rosters we've ever seen. But the dude can score at an extremely high rate. He's not the greatest playmaker. He's probably an average one. And he can't defend. Just like Donovan Mitchell. Now, Donovan Mitchell is a better passer than Colin Sexton. But is this gap between those two players, Colin Sexton, Lauri Markkanen, Ochai Agbaji, and 5 first-round picks? Are we sure that that's the gap between those two players? Because if it is, I'll be like, hey, this trade is perfectly fine. But in my opinion, it's nowhere near the gap between those two players. So trading for a player that you low-key already had, I'm not sure if that's the greatest idea. Another issue with this trade is they just gave up all their financial flexibility. Now, I'm not completely angry at this one because when you trade for a star, that happens. But usually when you do this, I expect you to be a championship level team. And I'm not sure if this Cleveland Cavaliers team is going to reach that level. Now, will they be very good in the regular season? Ooh, for sure. But I'm not sure if they're contenders. I'm not so sure. Now, with all the pros and cons out of the way for this trade, I can gladly give the Cleveland Cavaliers a B- on this trade. Now, I know people are like, you just traded for D Mitch. Oh my gosh, why is the grade so low? Well, I already mentioned the issues earlier, as their backcourt is small and both of them are bad defenders, and they gave up too many pieces for a player that they low-key already had on their roster. But, hey man, D Mitch is still a great player. And the reason why I didn't go any lower was because I still believe this Cleveland Cavaliers team, in my opinion, is going to be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference and still going to be a very good and tough out in the playoffs. Now, let's get on to the other team, the Utah Jazz. Now, I'm not going to talk about them a lot because, let's be real, not a lot of people care about the Jazz. But for me, this was an A++ for the Utah Jazz. First off, I just want to congratulate them on listening to me and going to the Gobi YouTube channel, because it's obvious they watch my videos. Because I've been telling the Utah Jazz, y'all might as well blow it up because y'all aren't going to win anything. And they did the exact thing that I thought they'd do, trading away both Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert in the same summer. Shout out to them for that. But this trade, what's so great about this trade is not only the picks, but they got my boy, the 6'1" guard out of Alabama, Colin Sexton, the pure hooper. Not only that, but they got a dude who was a lottery pick last year in Ochai Agbaji, a guy who a lot of people were high on in the draft as a possible 3-and-D player, and a dude who has some upside. So I like the trade in that aspect. And also, they got 5 first-round picks, 3 of them unprotected. That's a huge plus. And in my opinion, that was an overpay for D Mitch. So, shit, bro. They did a great job with that entire trade. Shout out Danny Ainge. I know a lot of people make fun of him, but man, does he know how to get hauls. And yeah, that's all I have to say. Colin Sexton, we praying on you to have an all-star level season. Please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell, and I'll see y'all. Male.